It's either you obey or you leave my house.
This thing called marriage part 3. Esther's inner world after marriage slowly turned into fear, silence, confusion, and a quiet emotional imprisonment she could not explain to anyone. Even as she began living fully in her husband's house, she never showed him love the way a wife was expected to. Not because she was wicked, but because her heart never understood what role she was truly meant to play. The man she married was not a bad man. He was not violent. He never raised his voice at her. In fact, he treated her more like a daughter than a wife. He spoke gently, asked about her day, and sometimes stared at her with pity in his eyes. He knew she was just a girl who deserved better than the fate handed to her. And so, he left her alone. He never touched her, not even once. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and Esther remained a wife only in name. Everything seemed calm, almost too calm, until Agatha returned to the village for Christmas. Agatha was the pride of the village. She had married a young, wealthy man from the city who took her away immediately after their wedding. They only returned during the Christmas season, arriving in expensive cars, bearing gifts, laughter, and stories of city life. At just 23, Agatha already had 3 children and carried herself with confidence, beauty, and fulfillment. She looked like a woman whose life had meaning. Each time Agatha returned, Esther found herself sneaking around just to look at her. She admired the way she spoke, the way people listened to her, the way she laughed without fear. One afternoon, Agatha noticed Esther's lingering presence and called her over. They sat under a tree, away from the noise of celebration. "I heard you got married to the old man in the village," Agatha said gently but directly. "Why would you do that to yourself?" Esther lowered her eyes, suddenly unable to speak. "Don't you know you're still young and beautiful?" Agatha continued. "You could have gotten the best of men if only you were in the city." Esther sighed. "I don't know anyone in the city," she replied softly. "That's why I never even thought of going there." Agatha smiled and placed a hand on Esther's arm. "But you have me now. I am here for you, if only you can be brave enough to take a step." Esther nodded slowly. She didn't say much, but Agatha's words followed her home and stayed with her through the night. "I can't continue like this," Esther whispered to herself. "Living in this village, married to a man old enough to be my grandfather. I need to make a move." But reality quickly reminded her of her limits. She had no money. No assets. No plan. "I will take my time," she said. "I will plan myself." That same afternoon, in another part of the village, Maggie's house was filled with anger. Maggie had finished cooking and washing dishes for her husband, as she always did. Without warning, he picked up the food and poured it all over her body. "You useless woman," he shouted. "You can't even prepare a decent meal anymore. It's either the pepper is too much or the salt is too much. I regret wasting my money to marry you." Maggie ran to the back of the house and cried until her chest hurt. "I can't afford to let my marriage end," she told herself through tears. "I can't let anyone know what I am going through. What will people say? That Maggie's marriage failed. No. Never." She wiped her face and blamed herself instead. "Maybe I am the problem," she whispered. "Maybe I provoked him. Maybe the food wasn't sweet enough." As soon as her husband left the house, Maggie adjusted her clothes, forced a smile, and walked toward the village path. There she met Mama Emma. Mama Emma was married to a kind man. He helped her with chores, cared for the children, and treated her with respect. But he was poor. He did not always have money. "Oh, Mama Emma," Maggie said loudly as she sat beside her. "You're up again." "We're fine," Mama Emma replied calmly. "Just that my son is sick, and my husband didn't have money for medication today. He promised to save some before night." Maggie laughed mockingly. "Eche. My husband cannot try that nonsense with me. If I had children and they were sick, he wouldn't dare step outside without giving me money. Mama Emma, you need to hold your husband with iron hands. Men don't value calm women. If you're too easy, they will use you. Mama Emma looked at her quietly, then asked, "But Maggie, do you even have children?" Maggie froze. "Don't you think it's time you stay more in your house and spend time with your husband?" Mama Emma continued. "Maybe God will bless you with even one child instead of you roaming around involving yourself in everyone's private life." Maggie stood up angrily. "Mama Emma, are you mocking me because I don't have children? Am I God who gives children?" "I'm not mocking you," Mama Emma said calmly. "I'm only telling you the truth no one tells you." She paused, then added softly, "Since you always claim to have a perfect marriage, why do you find it difficult to stay at home with your husband? Why do you prefer gallivanting around the village with young girls?" The words pierced Maggie's heart like a knife. She couldn't reply. She turned and ran off in tears, her carefully built lies collapsing behind her. And somewhere else in the village, Esther lay awake again, realizing that marriage was not one story but many hidden wounds stitched together by silence.
I paid your bride price in full. You're now my property.
This thing called marriage part 4. No day passed without Esther rethinking the first marriage she had been pushed into. Every morning she woke up with the same questions pressing heavily on her chest, and every night she went to bed with the same confusion sitting beside her like an unwanted companion. Yet one thing continued to surprise her. This man, this old man she had been given to as a wife, was actually kind. He had never touched her, not even once. He spoke to her gently, asked if she had eaten, asked if she was comfortable, and each time she avoided his eyes, he respected her silence. One evening, in a calm voice, he had told her, "I will never force you. When you are ready to open your heart to me as a wife, then we will talk. Until then, you are safe here." Those words disturbed her even more. If men were truly as terrible as the women at the Women's Forum always described them to be, why was this one different? Was he pretending? Was it a trap? Or was marriage truly not the same for everyone? The confusion refused to leave her mind. And so she decided to go and ask her mother. When Esther arrived at her mother's house, the first thing that struck her was not words, but sight. Her mother was sitting outside, eating calmly, her face fuller, her body stronger, her laughter lighter than Esther remembered. She looked healthy, happier even. Esther slowed her steps. Why does my sick mother suddenly look this strong? She wondered. Is it because of the money and foodstuffs my husband sends every month? Is that what healed her? I thought she wouldn't survive without me, yet here she is, smiling. A strange bitterness rose in her chest. She greeted her mother and sat down quietly. For a moment she watched her eat, watched the ease in her movements, and something inside her shifted. After a long silence, Esther finally spoke. "Mommy, tell me something. During your time, did you choose my father out of love? Or did he choose you? Or were you forced into marrying him like me?" Her mother paused. She wiped her hands slowly and looked at Esther, uneasy but calm. "My child," she began, "marriage comes in many ways. In my own case, I met your father when I was young. We fell in love. We chose each other. Even when wealthy men came to ask for my hand, I rejected them. I waited for your father to gather money for my bride price." She sighed softly. "My parents never supported us. They wanted me to marry rich. But when they found out I was already pregnant with you, they had no choice but to accept him. So you see, my story is very different from yours." Esther felt a strange relief wash over her, yet it did not bring peace. She nodded quietly and said nothing more. When it was time to leave, she stood up and began the walk back home. But with every step, her mother's words echoed louder in her head. "If my mother refused rich men for love, if she stood her ground even against her parents, why then did they force me into this marriage? Why was my own happiness not worth fighting for? Did my life matter less because I was born poor? Do I not deserve to taste true love? Her eyes burned as she walked along the village path. Suddenly, a loud cry pierced the air. Help me. Please help me. Esther froze. The cry came again, louder this time, filled with pain and terror. She turned, trying to trace the sound. Almost immediately, 3 other village women ran past her, their faces pale with fear. Instinctively, Esther followed them. The cries led them straight to Maggie's compound. Esther's heart skipped. That couldn't be possible. It couldn't be Maggie. Maggie was loved by her husband, or so she always said. He could never raise his hand on her. Never. But as they drew closer, the truth unfolded before their eyes like a nightmare. Maggie was on the ground. Her husband stood over her, beating her mercilessly, kicking her with both legs as she tried to shield herself. His voice was filled with rage. You useless woman. I will kill you today. Is it not the beating I have been giving you all these years? You think it is not enough? He kicked her again. You think you can tell me what to do in my own house? How dare you question me about taking another wife? Maggie lay helpless, crying and begging. Please, my husband, have mercy. Don't beat me again. My bones are not healed yet. I'm still in pain from the fracture you gave me 3 days ago. The words barely left her mouth when her eyes met Esther's. And then the other women. They stood there, frozen. The same women she had lied to. The same women she had mocked. The same women she had convinced that her marriage was perfect. Shock washed over Maggie's face like cold water. In that moment, everything she had hidden was laid bare. The lies, the bruises, the midnight tears, the false smiles. The compound fell silent, except for Maggie's sobbing. And Esther stood there, heart pounding, realizing that marriage was far more dangerous and far more complicated than she had ever imagined. To be continued.